Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Recently, I've become aware of what I think is a harmful oversimplification that I'd like to address for the benefit of both rejected parents and estranged adult children. There seems to be a notion out there that the length or severity of estrangement in adulthood is determined by the nature of childhood experiences. The idea is that there is a proportional matchup between the past and the duration, severity, or perceived hostility of a present estrangement. And that misconception leads to confusion and despair for parents, which adds unnecessary suffering to an already deeply painful experience. So today I hope to convince you that the presumed rule of proportionality is not really a rule at all. Now, how your adult child experienced their childhood does matter. It's part of the context in which their decision to create distance evolved. So if your goal is to heal the relationship and reconnect, you might decide to try to gain a new perspective on the past with compassion for everyone involved. I wrote in my Reconnecting book about some impacts of certain types of family experiences on the parent-child bond, and I want to make it clear before I continue that the past is not irrelevant to a current estrangement. However, I believe it is a disservice to both you and your estranged adult child for us to assume that what's happening today is solely because of or correlates exclusively with what happened years ago. Here's an illustration of the point. Imagine you had an argument yesterday with someone close to you, and let's say you're thinking about yesterday's argument right now and still having some feelings about it. Your emotions today do not stem from the first fight you ever had with that person, or the fact that you had a big disagreement with them 10 years ago. You may still remember those events, and they may in fact influence your feelings about what happened yesterday, especially if they seem related, if there's a theme. But you are not stuck in the past just because you remember the past. And neither is your estranged adult child. Just like the feelings you have about an argument yesterday, your child's estrangement is occurring in the context of your accumulated history together. To me, it seems simplistic to say there's a one-to-one correspondence between the distant past and what's happening right now, especially when other interactions have taken place in between. The length of your adult child's estrangement would appear to depend instead on a number of factors, only some of which were ever under your control or theirs. I wrote an article called "These 4 Things Affect How Long You'll Be Estranged," and I'll link to that in the show notes. But just for example from that article, your adult child's current responsibilities, including personal work such as therapy and other relationships, all make demands on their attention, energy, and time. Please don't assume your adult child is angry just because they're still silent. They may be angry, or they might feel hopeless or hurt, or they may just not have the time or energy right now to do the work of reconnecting, even if they would like to. Bringing an estrangement to an end is a process that may require investments of energy over time. So silence doesn't automatically equal anger, hurt, a lack of forgiveness, or anything else. I've talked before about what silence means and doesn't mean, especially in episode number 20, which I will link to in the show notes. On the opposite end of the scale from chilly silence, there may be heated words from some adult children. And if you are verbally blasted by your adult child or children, I know that can be shocking and hurtful, and it can lead to confusion about where that's coming from. But it's questionable at best to assume that that level of emotion is provoked directly by long ago experiences in childhood. I tend to view an expression of strong feelings as a symptom of frustration or pain that's got at least one foot planted in the present. So always look to more recent interactions to provide context as well as clues. Review episode number 154 for more about the impact of context on behavior. That's at reconnectionclub.com/154. That is all to say that I have not personally noted any one-to-one relationship overall between specific childhood experiences, the level of emotion expressed or withheld during estrangement, and the length of estrangement in adulthood. The simplest way to understand any estrangement is that while parents seek safety through closeness with their children, estranged adult children are seeking safety in distance. There will be stylistic differences in how adult children go about seeking safety through estrangement, and that is a large part of what creates those variations in length and perceived severity. Estrangement is complicated. It's got humans, there's communication, and it's emotional. And with all of those in play, there are very few fundamental truths we can hang on to about estrangement. But there are plenty of tempting fictions to steer clear of. And in my view, proportionality is one of those. The idea that specific estrangement behaviors correspond to a particular type of childhood, or that they're caused exclusively and proportionally by ongoing emotions about the past. From what I've seen, those are almost always oversimplifications and inaccurate at best. How we behave in any given moment, and also over time, depends on much more than just what is or was in front of us. There's so much context that goes into how and why people do the things they do. The way I see it, our job is not to figure out how to make behavior fit the facts as we know them, the way claims of proportionality want us to, but rather to try to understand the complexity of behavior, both our own and other people's, and always with compassion. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.